How long does it take you to get up off of the floor? 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5, 10? Chances are, if you're like me and you've spent years neglecting the strength and mobility of your lower body, then it probably takes a little longer than you'd like it to. How about with one hand? Little bit tougher now, right? How about using no hands at all? Yeah, that's gonna be a bit of a problem. So how long does it take you? Is it even possible for you? I think we can all agree that being able to get up from the floor quickly and in many different ways has a pretty strong correlation with longevity and youthfulness. And in this video, I'm gonna show you 4 exercises that aren't just gonna improve how easily you can get up from the floor, but we're also going to acquire the strength and mobility needed to do it without using our hands. And trust me, it's a lot more achievable than it sounds if we isolate the specific joints and muscles that are restricting us from doing this in the first place, so that you can go from being the stiffest person among your friends or family to becoming the supple ninja that no one saw coming. So like many of you, when I was a teenager, I moved really well. I was able to get up from the floor so effortlessly and in so many different ways. I breakdanced and did martial arts, and obviously those activities helped a lot. As I entered my late teens and early 20s, I slowly lost interest in those 2 amazing hobbies that helped me move my body in so many different ways, and instead I got heavily into bodybuilding and calisthenics. And I dedicated my life to 2 main goals: putting on muscle and unlocking upper body strength skills. And I completely forgot everything that was going on down here. And I just didn't expect my lower body to atrophy. No one ever told me like, hey, if you don't maintain the strength and mobility of your lower body, you're gonna lose it and you're gonna feel like shit. That wasn't really common sense to me at the time, because throughout my whole life, I just had so much ability. I had to learn the hard way, and one day after 3 to 4 years, it just hit me that, holy shit, I move terribly and I am physically aging a lot faster than I would like to. I feel slow, I feel tight, I feel weak and vulnerable, I have joint pain. It was a rude awakening, and that's why I got into the combination of strength and mobility training recently, so I can reclaim those youthful abilities, like being able to get up and on the floor effortlessly, and that's what I'm hoping I can help you with today. So before we get started, take a note, or maybe let me know down in the comments below how well you can get up from the floor. If you're using both hands, if you're using one hand, how long it's taking you, and hopefully after dedicating some time to implementing the methods that I'm about to show you, you're gonna be feeling like a cool, young, and agile cat in no time. Okay, it's time to get started. So the method of getting up from the floor that we're going to be focusing on today is what I call the closed 90-90 get up, as it is one of the easiest ways to get up from the floor without using our hands. Now, to actually get into this starting position comfortably, we need enough hip mobility in the front hip as well as in the back hip, and the front hip is where we're going to start. We need enough flexibility in our glutes to be able to sit here, to lean forward, and then enough strength to be able to push up into this tall kneeling position. The mobility drill that we're going to be using to improve those 3 things is this one that I'm doing right now. These are called 90-90 good mornings, and it's where we're seated with a 90-degree angle in our front leg. The back leg doesn't matter as much. We can move that to wherever is comfortable. And if you're really tight, you're gonna find a stretch in your glutes pretty much as soon as you start leaning forward. Once we find that stretch, we're gonna be pushing our heel and our knee down through the floor to almost push ourselves back up. So this is quite an active stretch that we're doing here. Now, what that push down into the floor does is it starts building strength in the glutes within that stretch position. So it really mimics the strength and mobility needed for our get up, especially when we're doing it without hands. If you're quite new to glute mobility, you might be starting off with just a light push down into the floor, and you'll feel a light contraction in that glute. But as you start to get more experience with this drill, you can start to push really strong down through that floor. The stronger you can push, the better results you'll get. Now, there's a good chance that you can't even sit down in that position comfortably. So if that's the case for you, then you're just gonna sit down on an elevated surface. So you can sit your bum down on a step or some blocks. If I were you, I would choose something soft like a mat or a pillow. And that's gonna make this drill so much more manageable as you go through it. If you're a little bit on the more mobile side, but you're not as strong, then you really might need to open up your chest and stick your tailbone out and maintain this open posture as you come down in order to actually feel a stretch. Sometimes it can feel pretty good to rotate away from the heel there as well. I would take your time coming down, make it nice and slow. I would hold for a second or two in that stretch, and then I would come up just as slow. You might have to start off with quite a lot of support from your arms, and as you get stronger, you can go lighter, and then you can eventually take them off. If you're feeling good, you can even add weight by holding on to a dumbbell or a weight plate, holding it out in front of you to increase the stretch and the strength needed in order to push back out. Now, if you're a real tidy fucking whitey and the floor just isn't for you, then I really like this box setup instead. You're gonna place your bum onto the edge of that box. This can also be a desk or a bench. Doesn't matter. You're gonna place your front leg on top, and you're gonna have that knee bent at that same 90-degree angle. And that way the back leg is just free to do whatever it wants, right? And then from here, you do the same thing. You lean forward, you find the stretch, and then you push your leg down through the box to come out. If you're still feeling a bit stuck, you can elevate your knee with an object, but if none of this is really feeling too good for you, I do understand, and in the description I'll have linked a complete beginner glute stretch for you. For all of those 90-90 good morning variations, I would start off with 5 to 10 reps for 2 to 3 sets. If you feel like the back hip is what's giving you all the grief, then drill number 2 is for you. So to comfortably sit down in this closed 90-90 position before we start standing up, the back hip needs to have enough internal rotation. And if we're very tight and limited in internal rotation, this is a stretch that I really like. We're gonna place our back foot up against an immovable object like this post. It can be upright or it can be flat. I prefer flat. And we're gonna come up into this half kneeling position here. Of course, you can place something soft under your knee if you need, and you can hold onto something for balance as well. You can have a stool in front of you, or a chair, or a broomstick. And then from here, all we're gonna do is we're just gonna rotate away from our front leg until we start to find a deep hip stretch. And if you're quite tight, you're gonna find that pretty quickly. Now, we are stretching some of the deepest tissue within our hip, hence why it can feel like a bit of a bony sensation. Now, if you're very new to this stretch, it can be quite intense. So you can start off with a relaxed hold anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. But if you feel like you're ready for some mobility training, then we can start building some strength within this stretch so we can start to see results a little quicker than if we were to just passively hold here. We can go for some contractions in this position, so we can start off by pushing our back foot into that immovable object for roughly 10 seconds. As you're pushing that foot through, you're gonna feel that hip starting to contract and squeeze. That's good. And then from there, you're just gonna relax for another 10 seconds. If you feel like something opened up after that contraction, then you can move deeper into the stretch once again by rotating your torso in towards that back leg. Then you can go for a second round, pushing that foot through. Once again, you can do this very lightly, or you can do this really strong, depending on how that hip is feeling. The stronger we can push, the better results we'll get, but we might not always want to start off strong if our hip is new to this position. I would start off with 2 to 3 rounds of contractions for 2 to 3 sets total. The third drill is a strength exercise, and it's gonna improve on the last phase of our no-handed get-up, which is lunging out of that half kneeling position. And it's also gonna improve just general lower body strength and stability for other ways of getting up from the floor. This is a split lunge, and it's where we keep both feet glued to the floor as we drop our back knee as close to the floor as we can, and then we push back out. Now, one of the best ways to start this exercise is by using our hands for support, and that can be done on boxes or benches on either side of us. If you have a pair of rings or a suspension trainer or a TRX, these work great as well, because you can take as much weight as you need off of your legs for you to perform these nicely. And as you get stronger, you can go lighter and lighter on the assistance. Once you start getting stronger, you can start adding some weight, and if balance is still an issue, then we can account for that by still using the other hand for help. And once you're ready, you can take away that assistance, taking your balance to new levels. Now, if your toes themselves are quite tight and it hurts to do these lunges, I can relate, and 2 variations that I have used to alleviate this have been the Bulgarian split squat, where we place our back foot flat-footed up against a bench, or we can place our back foot up against an angled yoga block. And that way we can work on our lunging strength without the toes getting in the way. Tight toes are often overlooked, but they can restrict a lot of movement. Eventually, we can unglue the back foot from the floor and do reverse lunges instead. This makes it more unstable, but it also directly mimics how we get up in that no-handed get up. Our fourth and final drill is our no-hands get up itself, but with the use of assistance. And there are two types of assistance we can use here. We can use assistance from the upper body, from our arms, and this can be with a band to pull us forward. It can also be with something on the ground, like blocks or a bench that we can push on to get up. We can also use elevation as assistance. Simply sitting down on something higher places us at a much easier starting point, as it requires less range of motion from both hips. And of course, the most powerful combo is using them both. Sitting down on something a little higher and then using a band, TRX, or a chair beside you to pull you up, and then whatever else you need to step forward into that lunge and then stand up finally. We can also play around with using our other hand or even both hands for assistance here, gradually using less and less help from them over time. So a nice strategy, one that I learned from handstand training, is starting off with a flat palm, and once that gets comfortable, moving on to your fingertips, as your fingers are less strong than your palm unless you have really, really strong fingers, and then gradually going down to 4, and then 3, and then 2, and then by the time you're on one finger, you're essentially doing it on your own. Now over time, we can either take away the assistance from our upper body and slowly sit down on lower and lower elevations, or we can take away our elevation completely, but gradually using less and less help from the upper body to stand up. Holding out weight in front of us is also a really nice use of assistance. And what you want to focus on here for everything really just depends on what you struggle the most with. So if you are really starting to master the first phase of that get up, you can just practice getting stronger and more confident with repping these out, doing multiple in a row while you work on the lunge pattern on its own. And once you have this down, guys, the floor is your oyster. There are so many different ways of getting down on and off the floor that you can play around with. The strength of my joints and my mobility still isn't where I want it to be yet, and so there's a lot that I'm working on. I would still love to be able to get up from a pistol squat position. Unfortunately, my knees are still not strong enough to handle that. My ankles are also a bit messed up right now, and so one day I want to be able to get back to standing up from this cross-legged position, and also to bring back some nostalgia from the martial arts movies. I eventually want to get that kick up again. I'll be documenting my journey right here on YouTube, so stay tuned if you'd like to see my progress. But I really hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know in the comments how you kind of progressed with this. Let me know how you're feeling on the floor, how you're feeling getting off of it right now. And let me know what other videos you would like to see. I'm still, you know, in the beginning phases of my strength, mobility, flexibility journey. So I don't know everything, and I can't make videos on everything yet. So I'm just teaching as I go. So yes, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.